Sometimes love doesn't walk in wearing a suit. It walks in wearing boots, dirt on its soul, and a heart full of mystery. The bell above the door of the Pine Diner gave a tired little jingle, the kind that barely caught your attention. But for Lyra Voss, who'd been pouring coffee for the last 5 hours straight, it felt like another small weight landing on her already aching shoulders. Another customer, another order, another mask to wear. She didn't even glance up at first, just scribbled the specials on the chalkboard in her usual faded green chalk. "Coffee?" she called over her shoulder, voice flat. "Sure, black, strong enough to knock, out a horse." That voice made her look, deep, calm, and warm, like someone who'd seen too much but never forgot how to laugh. He was tall, mid-30s maybe, wore worn boots, jeans that had seen better days, and a flannel shirt rolled at the sleeves. His scruffy beard and tousled dark hair gave him that just-passing-through vibe. But there was something behind his eyes. Not lost, just waiting. He took a seat at the farthest booth, back against the wall like a man who didn't like surprises. She poured the coffee, slid it over, and gave a practiced smile. "Welcome to Pine Diner. We serve it hot and judgment-free," he smirked. "That's good. I've had a week. You and me both." She turned back to the counter, heart hammering harder than it should. She'd waited on every type of customer. Creeps, talkers, ghosts with sad eyes. But this guy, he wasn't like the others. He had a presence, like a storm trying to play it cool. The next day he came back, and the next. Same booth, same coffee, and a slow-building ritual between them. He'd ask a question. She'd give a sarcastic answer. He'd laugh. She'd smile for real. "Name's Jax," he finally said on day 3, reaching across the counter. "Lyra," she replied, shaking his hand. "Like the constellation," he grinned. "So you're cosmic." "I'm broke and running on fumes. But sure, let's go with cosmic." Jax chuckled. "You always this honest with strangers?" "Only the ones who don't act like strangers." There it was again, that unexpected spark. But Lyra knew better. She'd learned the hard way. Sparks can burn if you let them too close. Late 1. Night after closing, Lyra sat out back on an upside-down milk crate, smoking a cheap cigarette more out of habit than need. The air was crisp, and the neon flicker of the Open 24 HRS sign lit the alley like a dying heartbeat. Jax walked up quietly, holding 2 paper cups. "Hot chocolate," he said. "Seemed like a cocoa kind of night." She took it, surprised. "That's dangerously thoughtful," he shrugged. "Guess I'm a dangerous guy." They sat in silence, sipping. After a while, she asked, "What's a guy like you doing in a dead-end town like this?" He stared out at the empty street. "Needed to remember what real life looks like." "You forget?" "Sometimes money makes things blurry. People stop looking you in the eye. You stop remembering what matters." Lyra frowned. "You from money?" He didn't flinch. "Used to be. Not anymore." A lie, but it rolled off his tongue like truth. She leaned back. "Well, welcome to Brokeville. We got bills, burnout, and trauma, served daily with a side of sarcasm." He laughed. "I'll take seconds." Behind her smile, Lyra was unraveling. Her younger brother, Caleb, had gone missing for 2 days last month. When he finally came back, he was bruised and silent. Then the letter came. No return address? Just one sentence. "You owe us. 10 grand by the end of the month, or we'll finish what we started with Caleb." She cried in the bathroom stall that night at work. Then she pulled herself together, wiped her eyes, and served pie like nothing was wrong. Her boss, a greasy jerk named Dwight, didn't notice she started skimming a few bucks from the till, never enough to raise alarms, just enough to stay alive. She told herself it wasn't theft. It was survival. On a rainy Tuesday, Detective Theo Marsh walked into the diner. He wasn't in uniform, didn't flash a badge. But Lyra knew his type. Tall, sharp-eyed, ex-military maybe. The kind of man who asked questions even when he was silent. She fumbled the tray when she saw him. Jax noticed. "You okay?" he asked after Marsh left. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, Jax offered to walk her home. The streets were slick, the rain falling in a soft whisper. They shared an umbrella, barely big enough for one. "You ever feel like life's got you on hold?" Lyra asked, staring up at the gray sky. "Like you're waiting for a break that never comes?" "All the time," Jax said quietly. "But sometimes the break is a person, not a moment." They stopped walking. Her eyes met his, and he kissed her. It wasn't hungry or rushed. It was slow, careful, almost scared. Lyra didn't realize she was crying until she felt his thumb wipe away the tear. The next morning, Lyra stood at her locker at work, hands trembling. She pulled out the envelope she'd hidden inside her apron. Inside was $600. Every dollar she'd saved, plus a few extra shifts worth of tips. It wasn't enough, not even close. And now Detective Marsh was showing up more often, asking subtle questions, pretending to like eggs and bacon. But she saw, through it, he knew something. Maybe about Caleb. Maybe about her and Jax. God, she didn't want to drag him into this. She didn't want him to look at her like she was someone to pity. She wanted him to keep seeing the version of her that still believed she could be loved. Jax sat at his usual booth, watching Lyra work with a heaviness in his chest. He hadn't felt in years. He wasn't supposed to feel anything. This whole trip was meant to be anonymous, a break, a reset. But this woman, this waitress with fire in her veins and shadows in her eyes, had broken down every wall he'd built. Nora, his assistant, had warned him, "Don't get attached. You're not here to rescue anyone." But Jax knew better. Now, he wasn't rescuing her. She was rescuing him. That night, just before closing, Lyra found a second envelope taped to the back door. Inside was a photo of Caleb, tied up, bruised, mouth gagged, and a note. "No more warnings. $10,000, or we bury your brother." Lyra gasped, the world spinning around her, and behind her, unseen, Jax had come to find her. He froze when he saw the photo in her hand. "Lyra," he whispered. "What the hell is going on?" She turned, eyes wide, tear-streaked. "You weren't supposed to see this." Jack stood frozen in the alley, the rain soaking through his flannel shirt. The photo in Lyra's shaking hands told a story darker than anything he expected. Her brother, bruised, bound, helpless, and she, this brave, sarcastic waitress with fire in her spirit, was at the center of it all. "Lyra," he repeated softly. "Talk to me." She backed away like a wounded animal. "You weren't supposed to see that." Jack stepped forward. "But I did. So now you don't have to carry this alone." Her breath hitched, torn between fear and relief. "You don't understand, Jax. If I talk, people get hurt. Caleb gets hurt. I can help." "No, you can't," she snapped. "You're just—" She paused, something shifted in her eyes. Suspicion, doubt, 1,000 puzzle pieces rearranging. "Who are you, Jax?" she asked, her voice suddenly razor-sharp. "No past, no job. You tip like a rich guy but dress like a drifter, and people look at you like you don't belong in this town." His silence said everything. "I knew it," she whispered, bitter laughter spilling from her lips. "You're not just some nice guy grabbing coffee. You're hiding something, too." The next morning, the diner buzzed like normal. Pancakes, gossip, clinking dishes. But the tension between Jax and Lyra could slice through bone. She avoided him until Nora Quinn walked in, polished, sleek, sharp as glass. She didn't belong in this dusty diner. She walked straight to Jax's booth and dropped a leather folder on the table. "You've been ignoring board calls," she said curtly. "The Wynn Foundation's in damage control mode. You disappearing. Isn't helping." "Keep your voice down," Jax muttered, glancing toward Lyra. But it was too late. Her tray clattered to the floor. "Win, as in Win Tech, the billion-dollar empire." "Mr. Win?" The entire diner turned toward her voice. Her face had gone pale. "Is that your name?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jax stood, pain in his eyes. "Lyra, I wanted to tell you." "You lied?" "I didn't. You lied every single day you sat in that booth." Her voice cracked. "You let me think you were like me, struggling, real." "I am real," he said desperately. "I came here to feel something again. I didn't expect you." Tears pooled in her eyes. "Well, you got what you came for. Now go back to your world." And just like that, she walked into the kitchen and slammed the door behind her. That night, Lyra sat in her apartment staring at the ransom note again. She clutched it like it was burning her palms. Jax was a billionaire, a man who had everything. And still, he lied. Just like every other man who promised her something and left her hollow. She was about to pour a drink when a knock came at the door. Jax, wet, from the rain again. Always the rain. "Don't," she said. "I don't want apologies. I'm not here to apologize. Then you're wasting your time. I'm here to fight." That stopped her. "For you. For Caleb. For everything you've been forced to carry." Her anger flared. "You think your money can fix this? You think I'm some project you can save to feel better about yourself?" "No," he said quietly. "I think you're the strongest damn woman I've ever met. And I don't want to save you. I want to stand with you." The silence between them was loud, louder than pain, louder than pride. She looked away. "You have no idea what I've done." "Then tell me." She poured it all out. How Caleb had been caught up in a local gang. How she tried to pull him out, but they wouldn't let go. How she started laundering small amounts of cash through the diner, just enough to keep them safe. I was scared. I am scared. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm not some innocent waitress, Jax. I've made deals, dirty deals. I stole from my job, lied to cops. I've got blood on my hands." Jax didn't move, didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped forward and took her face in his hands. "Then let me help you wash it off." The next morning, Jax called in a favor. Nora, though frustrated, agreed. "This is risky," she warned. "You're putting your name and your life on the line for her." "I'd rather lose it all than live knowing I walked away." They brought in Detective Marsh. He wasn't surprised. "I had a feeling," he said, tossing a photo of one of the gang members onto the diner counter. "We've been tracking them. They've got a full operation running through local businesses. Drugs. Laundering. Threats." Lyra paled. "Then why haven't you stopped them?" "Not enough to convict. We need evidence. Real time." Jax looked at Lyra. "You'd be wearing a wire." Her hand trembled. "They'll kill me." Jax stepped in. "They won't touch you. I'll make sure of it." Lyra stared at him, torn between fear and faith. "I'm not brave," she whispered. "Yes, you are," Jax said. "You've been brave every single day you kept going when the world tried to break you." 2 days later, Lyra sat in her usual booth, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, a mic taped under her collarbone. Across from her sat Deke, one of the enforcers, big, scarred, eyes like ice. "You got the next drop?" He grunted. "I told you, it's risky. There's heat. You get cold feet now, your brother ends up in a ditch." Her jaw clenched. "You'll get the money," she said. "1 more week." "That's not how this works." Deke leaned closer. But before he could speak another word, the diner doors burst open. SWAT. Guns drawn. Orders screamed. Within seconds, Deke was on the floor, cuffed, furious. Jax burst in behind them, eyes locked on Lyra. She stood frozen, breathing hard, still holding the coffee like a shield. Later, in the precinct office, Detective Marsh gave her the rundown. We've been tracking this crew for a year. Your wire cracked it wide open. Caleb's safe. Witness protection if he wants it. Lyra sat in the chair, stunned. Free. She was finally free. But the relief didn't come the way she imagined. It came like a quiet whisper, not a shout. A sigh, not a scream. Because freedom, she realized, wasn't just about surviving. It was about healing. Outside, Jax waited under the same damn rain he always seemed to find. She stepped into it, soaked. "Mascara running. Why are you still here?" she asked. "Because I never left." He pulled something from his coat pocket. "A key to the diner," he said. "I bought it from Dwight, renovated, reopened, and now I'm giving you half." "What?" "It's yours. Yours and Caleb's. A clean start. A real one." Lyra stared at the key and then at him. She didn't say anything. She just walked forward and wrapped her arms around him. No pretense. No fear, just trust, just love. They stood in the rain outside the diner, hand in hand. No more lies. No more running. Just a billionaire who found his soul again, and a waitress who discovered her worth was never defined by her past. Sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it arrives soaked in rain, carrying scars, and offering redemption. It had been 2 weeks since the bust. The town buzzed with whispers about the gang, the arrests, the billionaire who'd gone undercover in a dusty corner diner. But Lyra and Jax? They weren't listening. They were building. The diner had been reborn. Bright tiles, clean booths, sunlight spilling through the windows. The grime was gone, but its memory lingered like a scar. Painful, but real. Lyra stood behind the counter wearing a new apron with the name stitched across the chest, Calyx Cafe. K for Caleb. Ly for Lyra. X for the unknown they had survived. Jax had suggested the name. Lyra smiled every time she saw it. "New table in the corner," called Caleb, now working as the official barista, clean-cut and out of hiding. He tossed her a wink. "Some rich guy in a leather jacket, big tipper, might be into you." Lyra rolled her eyes. Not funny. But when she turned to look, he was there, Jax, sitting like he always did. That same knowing grin, like he'd waited for her his whole life. She walked over slowly, playfully. "You keep coming in here like I'm gonna fall in love or something." He leaned in. Too late. Later that night, while locking up, Lyra noticed something strange, a black SUV across the street. Windows tinted, unmoving. Her gut twisted. She shook it off, until the next night, it was there again, and again the next. She told Jax on the 4th day. He didn't dismiss it. Instead, he called Nora. Within hours, security cameras were installed. 2 plain-clothed bodyguards were posted at nearby tables. Something was off, and Jax knew it. The next morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a photo of Caleb tied up again, bruised, a date written in black ink, 4 days from now. Lyra's hands shook so hard the photo slipped from her fingers. "It's a warning," she whispered. "A message." Jax's face turned to stone. "The bus didn't get everyone. Someone's still out there." He turned to Nora. "I need everything on the crew. The lieutenants, suppliers, dirty cops, whoever was left behind." Lyra stepped forward. "No, I'll handle it. You won't go near them again. I have to. They want me, Jax. Not you, not Caleb. Me." Lyra arranged a meet, a burned-out warehouse near the river, the kind of place hope goes to die. She walked in wearing a wire. Jax listened from a surveillance van nearby. SWAT was on standby. But Lyra knew these men didn't play by rules or mercy, and then he stepped out of the shadows. Reed Caro. He used to be Deke's superior. Higher up the chain, silent, strategic, deadly. Well, he said smoothly. The little waitress turned heroine. You've been busy. Lyra stood her ground. You got your money, let him go. Reed chuckled. I'm not here for money. He tossed a photo at her feet. Jax, I want him. The billionaire with a soft spot for broken girls. I lose an empire, he loses everything. Lyra's stomach dropped. I'll give you a choice, Reed said. Bring him to me tomorrow night, or Caleb disappears for real this time. You know how this works. One life for another. She didn't flinch. Fine. But inside, she shattered. She walked back to the cafe, cold, hollow. Jax was waiting, eyes searching her face. What did he say? She lied. He wants money. I'll pay him. Quietly. Then it's done. Jax narrowed his eyes. You're lying to me. I'm protecting you. You're not God, Lyra. You don't get to choose who lives or dies. I am choosing. The words pierced the room like a bullet. He stared at her. Hurt, furious, but beneath it all, terrified. Then I'm going with you. No. Then I'm not letting you go. You don't get to decide for me, Jax. He took a step back, like her words had burned. And then she whispered it. Please, don't make me lose you too. The next night, Lyra walked into the warehouse again, alone. But this time, she wasn't wired. No SWAT, no backup, no Jax, just her. She faced Reed calmly. I came, he grinned. Good girl, then pulled a gun from his coat. Where's the billionaire? He's not coming. Wrong answer. He lifted the gun. But before he could fire, a shot rang out. Reed collapsed to the floor, a red bloom spreading across his chest. From the shadows, Jack stepped forward, gun shaking in his hand. Behind him, Detective Marsh emerged with officers flooding the room. Lyra stared, stunned. You followed me. I knew you'd do something reckless. Jax growled. She ran to him, pounding his chest with her fists. You could have been killed, and I'd do it again. Outside the warehouse, sirens wailed. Lyra stood with her arms around Jax, trembling. You disobeyed me. He smiled. I'm rich. We don't follow rules. She laughed through tears, then looked up at him. You still want someone like me? Even after all this? He took her face in his hands. No. She froze. I don't want someone like you. I want you. The Calyx Cafe had expanded. 3 locations, a scholarship fund for girls from broken homes, and on the wall of the original diner, a framed photo of Lyra, Jax, and Caleb, arms around each other. Safe, whole, healing. Jax had sold off half his holdings, walked away from the board, bought a small cottage on the outskirts of town, and on a soft spring afternoon, under the rustling branches of a birch tree, he knelt down in the dirt and opened a ring box. Lyra Quinn, he said softly, you save me in more ways than you'll ever know. Will you marry me? She didn't cry. She laughed. Hell yes, Win. And the past? It didn't vanish, but it no longer ruled them. Because sometimes love doesn't rescue you. Sometimes love walks into a war zone with you and chooses to stay forever.